Okay.
Good to go?
Yep.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Laura Betker. I was in your shoes 12 years ago. I graduated in 2006. And what I hope to give you today is just kind of a glimpse into what my life is like based on the decisions I made career-wise and the decisions I made while I was still in school. I'm sitting at work right now. Behind me is our KARE-11 backyard, which is where we do the forecast. So actually, in a little bit, I'm waiting for Belinda. Here she comes walking out. She's doing her forecast at the moment. Let me see. Which way do I got to turn this? She's walking out. Can you see her?
No, the other way.
Lovely Halloween decoration.
Yeah.
There she is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
There she is. So she's walking out, and then she's walking to the green screen. So that's kind of one of the unique things about working here at KARE is that we have this backyard and we actually do the weather out in the weather. The only time we don't do it is if it's lightning. And sometimes if it's super cold, we can convince the producers to let us be inside. But the whole idea is to show what the weather is. So I made a little PowerPoint that I'll give you, and if you want to, feel free to interrupt me as we go along, or we can save questions for the end, whatever, but we will give it a go here. Let me share my screen. You got it?
It should be coming. It took a minute earlier.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
All right.
You can hide that thing down on the bottom.
There we go. All right, so I mentioned I work for KARE-11, the NBC station in Minneapolis. But before that, I was a Badger, just like you guys. And here's kind of how my journey at Madison shaped up. When I went in as a freshman, I kind of had pre-med in my head. I knew I loved science, but didn't know exactly where I wanted to go with that. My family kind of has a history in the medical field, so that's just, I feel like that's what a lot of people go into college with is pre-med, and then it goes from there. But I kind of realized quite quickly that 8 more years, 12 more years of school wasn't for me. So based on the class I took as a sophomore, AOS 101, I was with Professor Ackerman, and everything just kind of clicked and made sense to me. And so I scheduled a meeting after several other major declarations. I was a chemistry major at one point. I wanted to have my own line of shampoos and conditioners. I was a math major at one point. I was looking at a couple design majors, but I had a meeting with Professor Martin, and he kind of roped me in. One thing I love about where you guys are right now is that it is a small department in a big school, and it's very welcoming, and you guys have all the opportunity in the world, no matter if you decide to go into broadcast or if you decide to take another track like research or governmental sector or something. But then through my junior and senior year, I took global modeling class. I, of course, did the capstone with some research that I combined with a trip with Tripoli to Steamboat Springs, and did research there on the top of the mountain. That was fantastic. What an opportunity. And then also, if you do want to go into broadcast, an internship is critical, because especially at Madison, there really isn't that kind of broadcast experience in terms of a green screen and kind of a school TV station. There isn't now, is there? I mean, there wasn't when I was there.
No, not really.
Right. So it's hard to kind of even know if this is the right fit for you, because we don't have that opportunity that some other colleges do with the college station. So an internship is fantastic for that. The choices that I made have got me here, and I'm happy with them. But what I would do differently is really with my class choices and where I paid attention the most, I would emphasize more on learning how to forecast and learning how to interpret radar. Really paying attention in the radar class, which I didn't even take, would be one area that is put to use on a daily basis, really in a lot of the areas that you might find yourself in. Of course, global modeling and all that might play effect, but really on a daily basis, the radar is something you're going to use every day, and something I wish I would have kind of experienced more and embraced more. Networking is super, super important. So if you can reach out to any of the meteorologists in town, see if you can spend a day with them if they don't have any internships open, and just maybe interview them, see what they like, see what their thoughts are on getting into the business, and keep in touch with other classmates. A lot of times the way you get a job is a referral here in this business, and so anyone else who might be working at a station or has worked at a station in the past could be the make or break moment for you. And then recognizing your strengths and weaknesses. Is this right for you? I personally was never a great studier, and that kind of led me, that's one of the reasons med school was never going to be an option, but also that kind of the research field wasn't going to be where I was happiest. And recognizing that it's okay, everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses, their likes and dislikes, and that can all play to your advantage. My computer science disaster, I took a computer programming class, and I don't know if I failed it or got a D, but it was not good. And I think I failed it, literally. So I obviously knew that programming wasn't my strength. So that is not where I ended up. Getting a job after my studies, I had an interview at a Duluth TV station and was actually offered the job. It was a weekend position that was paid hourly and was just the weekend. It was paid by show, so it was just the weekend. So I probably would have made about $200 a week as the weekend meteorologist in Duluth, and that was kind of a big shock to me. I literally would have had to been like your weekday bartender and weekend meteorologist, which did not fit the mold of what I thought I was going into. So I did not take the job. I interviewed at a small Texas TV station, and the pay they were offering was $13,000 a year. Again, not what I was expecting, and I couldn't picture myself moving thousands of miles away from my house and being able to live on that. So I ended up getting a job in St. Paul at Weather Eye Radio Network, which was basically forecasting for radio stations, small radio stations, and contracting that out. So we recorded like 400 little 32-minute second clips a day and sent those out. And in hindsight, that was really good because I really learned how to talk before I had to learn how to kind of point on the green screen. But being on radio is kind of lonely. You're in a closet by yourself the whole day, and it really wasn't for me. So I completely left meteorology and worked for the American Heart Association for 2 years and actually liked it. However, we work hard for our meteorology, for our AOS degree, and I felt like I should at least give that another chance to put that knowledge and that hard work to use. So I called up a friend who worked in Green Bay, went and made a resume tape, and got a job at WLIO in Lima. It's one of the smallest TV markets across the country, but it was excellent, and really having that willingness to take a job anywhere is something that is super important to have the best chance of getting a job out of college. You will learn more, you will put to use more than just your meteorology skills. You will likely be a reporter and maybe even run your own camera as well. The perks of working in a small market are that everyone there is, or at least most people there, are new. So you're all in the same boat. You're all young. You all are poor. You can have a lot of fun together because that's a lot to bond over. The fact that you're all kind of starting out and you're all in the same boat and the same experience. And that's another opportunity to really network, because you'll find that from that first job, all your friends will be scattered then across the country in a couple of years, and those are contacts that you can use to jump and move around if in one day you'd like to. So you really get experience in on-the-job training in every department. You will run the camera, you will write the stories, you will work on the website, and all that is resume building at its finest. Learn everything you can in that small market, because it all will help you get that next job. That brings me here to KARE-11. What I love about my job here are, for one, the exciting opportunities I get. We broadcast live for 10 days down when the Super Bowl was here last year, and that was amazing. I get to go on stories and see things that the average person doesn't get to do. For one, that really stands out. I don't know why, it's kind of gross, but we went on a tour of the inside of a water treatment plant. I did a story on that. You know, seeing the best fall colors and riding ski lifts and gondolas up to see the best of that. All that is stuff that not everyone gets to do every day in this world. Another big thing that is actually more and more recently becoming important to me is that this job is a platform for my passions. I get to be me in this job as much as telling the weather. I can talk about things that I care about. For me, that's the environment, it's conservation, it's restoration, and both on air and in social media, I can weave that into as kind of an outlet for me to talk about what's important to me. Another thing I love is the daily challenge of forecasting. You know what? It's hard every day. It's hard with severe weather. It's hard with snowstorms coming in, because people are relying on you, and that's one of the things that I love about my job. People are counting on you, and you are seen as an expert in the field that you've studied in, and to me that's a big deal. That makes me feel proud of myself, and you can feel proud of that too, whether this ends up being a career for you or not. But you're creating a platform for yourself to be an expert. Our team here, Belinda, Jensen, I like to call her the CEO. She's our chief meteorologist, so she makes all the big decisions. I like to refer to myself as the COO, the Chief Operating Officer. I do the schedule. I'm in charge that our graphics look great. I'm in charge of our schedule, so I kind of make our little corner of the newsroom hum and tick. Sven Sundgaard, I like to call him the CIO. He still to this day uses one of his own models that he built in college to do the forecast here every day, but he kind of keeps us up to date on some of the latest research that's going on. And then Jeff Edmondson, he's our CTO. He handles, if we have a computer problem, we call him. He makes sure our computers are up to date, make sure we have the latest versions of our software and all that good stuff. A typical day here at KARE for a meteorologist, there's really 3 different shifts that are typical. Early morning, which is about 3:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Midday, which is rare. Some stations don't have this. We do here. That's 9 to 5. That usually involves some reporting. And then the evening shift, which is 2 to 10:30, and that's weekdays and weekends. What I do is I work a midday shift on Wednesdays and Thursdays, usually doing some scientific reporting. A lot of times I get to choose the story. Other times it's assigned to me. Like a big thing today is that NOAA released the winter outlook, so everyone wants to know about that. That's a typical weather story that we would do as a reporter. And then the evening shift, I do that Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. For forecasting, of course, we heavily rely on models. We look at GFS, Euro, the NAM, RPM, and the GEM for our main stuff. RPM is kind of what we use as our go-to high-res here, but of course we'll use whatever one we think, especially when it comes to snow forecasting. We'll just use whatever one that we think is reliable for that particular storm. Forecasting in general is collaborative between each of our team members. So everyone who comes into forecast will just kind of update our 7-day forecast from what it was before. We're not starting over every time. We're just kind of tweaking here and there as we go along. We have a rule that our 2-degree rule. We're never going to change a high or a low by just 1 degree. If you're going to change it by 2 or more. And the reason for that is because we value consistency in our forecast as well as accuracy. So say the forecast today was 68, and Belinda came in tonight and thought, well, I think it's going to be 69. Well, there's not real, the value of not being consistent doesn't outweigh the value of being accurate in that point. So she would either have to put 70 or leave it at 68, even though she really thought it was going to be 69 degrees. They kind of balance that outcome. And each meteorologist brings their own bias, their own unique tendencies, their own opinions. Sven, I think, tends to be on the warm side. Belinda definitely tends to be not necessarily warm or cold, but more on the conservative side. So really, if we're looking at maybe a small chance for rain on a big weekend holiday day, and maybe it's only like a slim chance, Belinda's going to be sure to mention it, and then it's great if it didn't happen. Whereas I think Sven might just mention it in passing, but really not make that a big deal. And then Jeff and I think we kind of fall more in the middle as far as what. But we all have, and you will too, all have your own kind of bias, and maybe you need someone else to tell you that. I know I've asked my teammates, what's my tendencies, as far as we talk about it openly, so I'm not saying anything that we haven't talked about together. And of course, how we tell our story, our weather story, is using graphics. And that's exactly what we want to do. We want to weave them together so that everything comes off like we're telling a story, just like we would tell our friends or family members what we expect the weather to be. So we typically start off with what's going on right now, and then a lot of times it ends up chronologically flowing through tonight, tomorrow, and the 7-day, and then maybe we'll pick out a little bit about what's happening this upcoming weekend. But we really want our graphics to tell a story, making them look nice and making them clear for people who learn in different ways. So say we might use a kind of futurecast type thing in one show, while the other one we might use more of a bar graph or a planner, because everyone learns in a different way. Everyone's going to hear what you say a little differently, so it's important to say things differently, to show things differently from show to show, and sometimes within the same forecast. We also write articles for online and newspapers. We have not necessarily social media requirements, but we want to be sure to be present on social media. Of course, our main one is still Facebook, as far as how many viewers we reach, but also Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat are kind of the main 4. And that all goes into our on-air broadcast. We love to, and our parent company, Tegna, loves to incorporate social media into our broadcast. So we want to kind of mingle the two so that we can reach viewers in both platforms. Within our on-air broadcast, I mentioned we want to tell that weather story. We want to show more than maps. Even though they make sense to us because we look at them every day, you'd be surprised how many viewers would look at a radar, would look at a temperature map, and really not know what they're looking at. So that's, again, plays into the effect of people learn in different ways, people hear you in different ways. So showing more than maps is really important. And some of that, too, is letting your interests come in. If you have a love for photography and you take a lot of great pictures, show them. If you, like me, are super interested into kind of conservation and ecology and gardening, maybe like some of the things we talk about are what kind of plants can withstand a hard freeze and a frost. So anything that you're interested in. Jeff is here really interested in space, so he talks about kind of the planets and the meteors coming up that you can see and what the forecast is like based on that. Sven is really interested in climate change and conservation and how that is affecting animal populations, so he definitely brings that in. But being yourself is so important, and letting your interests shine that are outside of weather. Show the viewers that you are a real person and you have you do more than just look at weather maps all day long, because you have a personality and you can let that show. Reporting and photojournalism here is a big part of all of our jobs. Everyone here in the weather department does more than just weather forecasting. We all do stories of some sort or another. And so any experience you can get in that realm will help you land your first job. And again, an internship can play into that, but also maybe taking a graphics course, maybe taking Journalism 101, just to kind of get the feel for how writing happens in a newsroom. Again, an internship definitely can help you with that. One thing I like to do is on social media, follow as many people and as many things, you're fine, right? As many people and as many things that you are interested in and that might give you a story idea. And that is a huge resource for you, whether it's seeing amazing tornado video that came out of Australia, or just the latest bird migration that is coming through the States. So anything that you feel you are interested in, follow them, follow other meteorologists in the market, follow your competition, and the more the merrier when it comes to that. Severe weather. I don't know how many of you are super into storm chasing and severe weather, and it is some of the most exciting times here is when, for the weather department, is when we have severe weather, but to be honest, it's not our favorite days. And there's a couple reasons for that. We love it because it is our opportunity to shine as a meteorologist more than any other time. Maybe the day of a snowstorm or the day before a snowstorm rivals this, but people turn to the TV station to see what's going on. Am I safe? What is the timing of what I need to do? So it really is an opportunity to shine as a meteorologist, not just for the viewers, but also to your colleagues and coworkers in the newsroom. You're the expert. It's our call as the meteorologist on duty whether we're going to break into programming or not. And that's not always an easy call. What if the NHL playoffs are on? What if Wimbledon is on? It's hard to make that decision, and you're never going to make everyone happy. Even if it's just American Ninja Warrior is on, someone's going to be mad at you for that. But you are the expert, and you get to use that kind of authority to make the right decision. It's important to keep calm. It's exciting, yes, but to the viewers, a calm voice portrays safety. Yes, there are times to get to really hammer home that this is a serious situation. But say there's a tornado warning and it's just radar indicated, make sure you explain that. Be transparent. Let them know what's going on. And then a big downside of severe weather when you're working in TV is that we have an on-call schedule. So if, say on a Saturday, it always seems to happen on a weekend, there's a slight or even enhanced risk over the viewing area. Well, someone's going to be on call to help out. We can't just have one meteorologist here. So you might be on call and just kind of sitting around all day waiting to see if severe weather is going to happen. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but an on-call schedule is a reality of a part of the run. And that's kind of one of the reasons that at least severe weather potential days can be kind of frustrating, because they can tend to ruin plans from time to time. Here's what I tell my interns at the beginning and at the end of their internships. I kind of went over most of this, but take more radar courses. That's something you'll use every day. Learn how to talk about weather in a conversational way, in an authentic way. You're not a robot, and that's not what you're going to be on TV. So maybe the reason we're going to have rain is potential vorticity advection by the thermal wind, but you don't go on TV and talk about that. Learn how to talk about the weather like you would to someone who doesn't know anything about it, not necessarily to the people who are in that room there who would understand more scientific languages. network with other meteorologists, with the folks you are sitting in the room with. The more you know, the more people that can help you, who knows, down the road. Have realistic expectations. We'll talk about this in more as we go along, but it's not an easy business for several reasons, and you'll learn that along the way, but it is exciting and it's really fun. And one of the things I loved was being willing to go anywhere for the first job. Who knows where you guys will be in 1, 2, 3, 5 years, but where you go for the first job is not going to be where you end up for your final job. So a couple years in the middle of nowhere, like I was in Lima, Ohio, isn't the worst case scenario, and in fact it's pretty exciting. And market size, in fact, is less important than you might think. What you want to find is a place where you feel comfortable, you like the station and the people you work with, you feel valued as an employee, and whether that's in market 190 or a market number 4, you'll find what's best for you. And a lot of people come in and they want to climb the ladder and continue to grow and grow in market size. And that can be what's right for you, but really I think more importantly is finding a station and a company and a situation that is right for you. In the past, let's talk about salaries here, and it's something that I think is a little bit of a misconception, and it's changing. Certainly people in the past, and especially in the height of news in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, where the people on TV news were celebrities and made a lot of money. That is changing more and more because of digital life. Less people are watching TV. More people are watching on different platforms. So 6-figure salaries aren't out of the question, but they're not something that you should expect. And I honestly have no idea what this business is going to look like in 10 years. Are we going to go back to, TV figures it out and TV news figures it out and we gain all our viewers back? Are we going to make less of a presence and be more digitally based? Who knows? And really social media and the role it plays, who knows where this can all go. And right now, I wrote on here, social media is a blessing and a curse for a lot of reasons. I talked about before how I personally get a lot of story ideas and a lot of content from social media. However, people can also talk to you and reach out to you in social media. Sometimes that's great and sometimes that's a little harsh. I want to show you, this is a picture of a year and a half ago. I was 8 months pregnant. And you can see there's the 4th of July on Tuesday, so that gives you kind of a context of when it was. But just doing the weather, here I am. I came out the door in our KARE-11 backyard, and this is a message I got on social media. I won't read the whole thing, but it basically starts off, I realize you're pregnant, but even before you looked like you dumpster dived for clothing you wear on the show. You look ridiculous, so unprofessional. From head to foot, you look a mess, blah, 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 on and on. This is not out of the ordinary to get a note like this from someone, and it is really hard to hear, no matter how many times it comes. I posted this without the viewer's name, and got so much feedback on it. It's insane, but it's something that you kind of have. It's sad that you have to expect when you get into this business, and not something that I really thought about beforehand. But it's hard. It really is. And honestly, the best way I deal with it is I go home and I talk to my husband, and for the 200 great comments you get, you'll get one nasty one, and that can just ruin your day. But learning how to deal with that is a big part of being in this business. I asked Jeff and Belinda to give you guys a little bit of advice, and here's what Jeff had to say.
Hello, students of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I'm Jeff. I'm one of the meteorologists here at KARE-11. I typically do the 11 a.m. newscast during the days. And one thing I love about working at KARE is we have this lovely backyard that you can see behind me, and with all of the gourds and all these things, a lot of them. But the nice thing about being outside here in the backyard is we can verify our forecasts just by looking up. Look at that, we have the sunshine. And that's one thing that I really recommend, whatever field that you want to get into in meteorology, if you're forecasting for the National Weather Service for your own city, or you're on TV, is to step outside and remember what weather is going on right now and make sure it's verifying. For example, we have blue skies right now, and they should be blue. You don't have any rogue clouds that could be out there. So verifying your forecast and stepping outside is a big thing. Also, of course, going into meteorology, in any field, I really recommend networking. Yes, we can learn a lot of things about vorticity. We can learn a lot about deriving thickness, those tools, and you need to learn those to get your degree. And they're important. In broadcasting, they're also important too, but what we really need to do is a networking. Who do you know? It helps you open up those doors to get into those jobs, whether it's at a National Weather Service office, if a friend of yours works there, or someone else you know, or if it's at a TV station, maybe they can help you get that job. So that's one thing that I recommend if you want to broadcasting or any other kind of field in meteorology, to do a little bit of that networking as well. Good luck in your future studies. If you have a year left, a couple months left, or a few years left, have fun. It's a good program.
And I also asked Belinda to record something.
Well, my name is Belinda Jensen. I'm a meteorologist here at KARE-11 in the Twin Cities. I work with Laura, and I'm a Badger. I graduated May of 1990. What an awesome opportunity I had to go to Wisconsin. And I've been here for 25 years. So my bit of knowledge, if I can narrow it down, I think the most important thing is to really, if you do go into broadcast or if you do other things with meteorology, it's always so important to emphasize the fact that you're a scientist and that you have science to deliver. But really, everybody is a citizen scientist. So if you just point things out to them, nuggets of information, beautiful pictures, things they've never seen before, things they might not notice in the sky or with the weather, it goes way further than you think. Things that you just understand because you've studied them, or because you've noticed them, or because you've had interest in them, that other people will find fascinating. So don't forget that. That's a really important thing. Don't take yourself too seriously. That's also quite important. And then if you do end up doing some sort of a communication degree or television with meteorology, never forget to always slow down and to emphasize your point, and that pauses can be very powerful. So finish your sentence, take a little breath, and then go on to the next. Because it seems like eternity when you're quiet on TV or the radio, but it is very effective. Well, thanks for asking me, Laura. I appreciate it, and go Badgers.
All right, so that's what I have to tell you guys. Let me get back to here I am. Uh-oh. Stop sharing my screen.
And with Becky last time.
There we go.
With Becky last time too.
Okay. So I'm open to answering any questions you guys might have, or if you want me to kind of elaborate on anything, I'm happy to do so. What do you think? Is that what you expected? Is that what you expected, or was there anything that surprised you?
I think that's kind of what I've been around maybe longer than you have.
Yeah.
Does the shift work mess with you at all? I mean, you're not like weather service shift where you're doing overnights
Right.
and really messing with your schedule, but you said you work, midday on Wednesday, Thursday, and then late shift on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Does that mess with you, or you kind of get used to that?
Yeah, mine isn't too bad. Jeff, who you saw, he's kind of our utility player. He's the low man on the totem pole, if you will. So he gets shifted around to that early morning shift sometimes, all the way to the evening shift other times, and that's really hard. Honestly, when I was in Ohio, I worked that morning shift and I could totally swing it, but I don't think I could do that right now. Your body's either built to be able to handle that or it's not. It's also, I think, harder for a woman in that position because you have a lot more to get ready. I mean, you have to be, our show starts at 4:30, which means you have to be showered and makeup and hair and getting dressed all by that, plus put together a forecast and your graphics all by that time. So I personally know that's not the greatest shift for me, but I've done it, and it's kind of a stepping stone in the ladder. And some people are really happy with that because then you have the whole afternoon off, and in the summer that can be fantastic, but it's just not for me.
What about the graphics stuff? I know you guys use some, custom graphic type stuff that, it's not like Photoshop or stuff that we have here.
Right.
Would you recommend people play around with to get used to that, or is that like an internship thing?
That might be more of an internship thing. We use a program that's the weather company based in Madison, but they've been bought out a couple times, so I'm not sure where the actual headquarters. But the folks we talk to are from Madison, from the weather company. Max is the program we use, and even if you don't learn how to do Max, I really think if you have the opportunity to take some sort of graphic design course, just in learning how to make things look good and the concept of different size text and different color text. For example, like red text on our green screen just doesn't work very well. It doesn't come across on the TV very well. And a lot of that you'll learn on the job, but just that understanding of kind of clean, basic design is super beneficial, and you can get that on the job. You can get the technical stuff of how to use the program in an internship or even in your first job. You don't need it, but it's pretty intuitive as far as using the program itself. It's almost like a PowerPoint when it comes down to it, but actually like building the graphics. And maybe, that's a job for some people who become weather producers. Just if you're in broadcast, you don't have to be on TV. You can be a weather producer, which is in charge of basically forecasting and finding that extra content outside of the maps and weather and then building the graphics. That's a whole other career. Not super common. We don't have a straight up weather producer here, but some stations do, especially once you get bigger stations.
Is that WSI Max that you use?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that like common? Does everyone use that, or is there different programs?
There are different programs. WSI is very, very common. Barron is another one. We used to have Barron radar and then WSI graphics. Right now we have both of them through WSI, but actually during Florence, the radar went out, and so some the stations that were dealing with that on a 24/7 operation were very upset. And so I know they were like kind of looking for Tegna, our company, to look more at Barron. So we might change, but those are the two kind of main ones. But I would say probably 75%, from what I know, use Max.
Any other questions? The hot dogs are taking effect and everybody's
Everyone's snoozing.
Yeah.
Well, another thing I wanted to mention was that every summer we have internships, and for one reason or another, we don't get a lot of applicants. So we would love, Belle and I would love to have some Badgers in here. If anyone has the opportunity to come up here, and we are always looking for some good interns, and kind of in the January, February timeframe, we kind of start that process. So we would love to, I'd love for you to reach out to me and if you're interested.
Laura, are you on the AOS alumni Facebook page?
Yes.
Okay.
Should I post it on there when we come for that
Sure.
time?
Send an email to me. I'm still, as ever, poker at aos.wisc.edu. If you want to email me, I can forward it on.
Yeah, I would love that.
Okay.
Yeah, and even if you don't, when we're looking for interns, it's not just someone who absolutely knows they want to be in broadcast. Some of our interns, you know, that's the reason for an internship, is to find out if this is what you see yourself doing or not. So we're more than happy if you're on the fence or whatever. You don't have to be 100% want to be a broadcast meteorologist to have the internship.
Do you get to go to like the AMS annual meeting ever?
You know, I'm sure if I asked, I would be able to swing it. I haven't gone, but I know a lot of the other technical meteorologists do go. So I think it's more of a preference thing if you want to go or not. Another thing I didn't mention, because I see a lot of women in the audience, but for men too. One of the challenge with the schedule of this job is kind of balancing your home life and your work life. When you have kids and you're working 2 to 10:30 every night, that can be great for when your kids are little and they go to bed anyway at 6, 7 o'clock. But especially from what Belinda tells me, once they get to be teenagers, it's really hard to balance that work-life relationship when you aren't home when your kids are home for a lot of the time. I know for me, my husband and I don't have a day off together, and that can be kind of stressful at times, or kind of disappointing, I guess, at times. It's just one of the things that we've learned to deal with. But that's another thing to kind of keep in mind, that in this business, there's rarely a great schedule. But that said, we're all still here, and we do like our job. But the glamour of TV and getting a TV job wears off pretty quickly. And the number one question I get is, oh my gosh, is it so much fun that you work there? And it's like, yeah, but it's still a job. I still, you know, get up and have to go to work every day. It's going to my job. So you can love your job and whatever, but it is still a job. So I wouldn't recommend, if you are looking to get into it because you think it's glamorous to be on TV and you think you're going to make a lot of money, that's maybe not the right reasons. It's really, if you're passionate about the weather and communicating information about it, that's the right reason for getting in the business.
Laura, what was the makeup of your graduating class, men and women?
I think we had like 4 girls, 4 or 5 out of 25.
Okay. Because I was going to say, when I graduated in 88, there was 1 woman in our class. And now, what are you guys, about 50-50?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Last couple of years, there's been a lot more women in our undergraduate classes and graduate students.
That's actually, how many kids are in, is it still around that 25 number?
It really varies from year to year. Your class is what, 8 maybe, 10?
No, we have like 15.
You have 15?
At-
So
at best.
the seniors, there's maybe 15 right now. And the junior class, I want to say, is like 28, 26, something like that. We have a really big junior class this year, so we'll see how that works out. But it really varies from year to year. Some years we'll have 10, some years we'll have 15, 18. So our faculty's gone way down. We had, I think, 16 or 17 FTE faculty when I was here. We're down to 10.1. But we just hired both women. Well, Steve Ackerman is 0.1, right? He's a dean and he was working down in SSC and stuff. So, but we just hired 2 new faculty. One will be starting next summer. One will be starting the following winter. Both women. So that was pretty awesome.
That's fantastic. It really is exciting. I mean, the whole girls in science in general is really exciting and something we get on board with here, because 2 out of the 4 meteorologists here are women, and that's becoming more and more common, but still unique. There's still a lot of stations that are for white men, and it's exciting to see women and more diversity coming into the scientific field, and I think that's awesome.
All right. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you guys for listening to me ramble for quite some time, and I'm so happy to kind of jump back into college for a little bit. You're making me homesick for Madison.
You should drive down tomorrow. We're having an alumni open house.
I know, it's homecoming, right?
Yeah, right. Homecoming is Saturday. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, cool. I'm happy to be here, and thanks for reaching out, Pete. Anytime you need.
Yeah. Well, I think it was probably.
Oh, Dan
Dan.
reached out. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the technology end of things. I make it happen. But they go out and find the people. We've had, I don't know, 6 now. Different people from different. One was in insurance.
Yeah.
Holly she works at WSI, the weather company, and talked about her, journey to how she got to where she is.
Yeah.
Becky is an aviation weather.
Holly on the phone.
Yeah. So Alex Kubicek, he started, what's the company?
Christy, you can come in, no big deal.
I can't remember what it is, but he started a company of his own. They're doing like high density weather observing and selling the data to insurance companies.
Oh, yeah.
These little weather stations that can detect hail and other kinds of damage to pinpoint was there likelihood of damage or not.
Wow.
So, anyways.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, cool. I hope I've given you a little taste of TV weather.
Just a
But if
taste.
any of you think of any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Pete, if you want to pass my information, my email along
I can send
somehow.
I can do that. I think because we were emailing back and forth. I've got it on my email. I can just send it out. And then, like I said, when the internship stuff happens, shoot me an email. Let me know. I'll make sure
Will
they get it.
do.
Awesome.
Will do.
All right.
Great. Thank you,
Laura,
guys. Thank you.
Take care.
Good luck.
You done recording? Wasn't as long as Anchor's meeting.
They're taking me
upstairs working. Thanks, Pete.
You're welcome.
Want 8 hot dogs?
Do I want